Hey everybody, welcome to the PintheQ podcast, episode 5, here live, Whitesville, Jackson, New Jersey, at this pretty cool firehouse. Awesome piece behind me, which is a Rosenbauer, correct? Rosenbauer ladder. Here with Chief Aldrich, and excited to do this one.
Very excited. Very excited, very humbled to be on the show.
Here you are. So I know you as Flounder.
Yep.
Right?
A lot of people do.
I know there's people watching right now that are watching this episode and are going, Flounder, there he is.
Yep.
So you were excited to be on the show because...
I'm excited, man. I mean, what you're doing is really good for the fire service.
Thank you. I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah.
That means a lot, especially coming from you. We've known each other a long time.
We have. We've definitely known each other a long time. We got a lot of the same beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I always remember where I came from. And when I started my business, way back when no one in TR would give me that shot.
Yep. Funny story.
You did.
I was the first guy that gave Frank his big shot.
Yeah, you were the guy, and I never forgot that.
Yep. I wouldn't let anybody else touch my Chiefs car.
I know.
I trusted and believed in you. I trusted and believed in what you did, and I trusted and believed in who you were.
I appreciate that, bro. It means a lot. So you're here, and we're gonna talk about some stuff.
I'm here. Let's talk.
So first and foremost,
yep.
I know you want to get your disclaimer out there. So.
Yeah, let me get my disclaimer.
Right.
I'm a man of many hats. I am a past fire commissioner in Jackson Township. I am currently a deputy county fire coordinator. I am currently a firefighter in Jackson Township Fire District 2.
Okay.
And I think that's about it. So anything
sounds like a lot.
Yeah, anything that I say. Oh, and a deputy forest fire warden in the New Jersey Forest Fire Service. So anything that I say here is strictly of my opinion, not of the opinions of the fire service.
Okay, fair enough. So we got that out of the way. So all those hats you're talking about.
Yep.
Right. Take me back to the beginning. How did this all happen?
To the beginning. Well, as anybody who follows the Facebook page and follows PintheQ, you'll see that my picture was up in me in a little emergency 51 outfit back when I was 5 years old, and I always wanted to be a fireman. And awesome. When I turned 18, guy that I went to high school with, Jamie Hafner, was a good friend of mine, and his brother John Hafner was a firefighter, and hanging out at Jamie's house, tones would drop, John would get a fire, and out the door he'd run, blue light on, go into the firehouse. And the day I turned 18, I walked into Pleasant Plains Firehouse in Toms River and said, I want to join. And Jamie was already there, John was already there. And,
right.
It was something I wanted to do.
It was cool for me to see that, when I talked to you about being on the show and I asked you for a photograph to start and you sent me that one.
Yep.
That was cool. I thought, man, this is the best so far. That's the best photo I've got.
Yeah. You know what? Anybody can get their picture taken with a Chiefs hat on, sitting behind an American flag. But you know what? It starts when you're young. It starts when you got to live your dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad to see that you did just that.
Yep.
So you started in Pleasant Plains.
Started in Pleasant Plains. I did from 1991 to 2008.
All right, so a long time.
Yeah.
So you started as a firefighter?
Started as a firefighter. I was the youngest firefighter to ever drive the articulated tanker at Pleasant Plains because I had a CDL license when I was 18.
Wow.
And
that's rare.
Yeah, and there was only 5 or 6 guys that could drive it. And within 7 or 8 months, Chief Gary Licknack, who's passed, came to me and he said, I want to qualify you as to be a tanker driver.
Awesome. So a lot different place then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, back, I was an anomaly back in Pleasant Plains. I really was. I mean, I had experience driving trucks, so, I got qualified on trucks real easy. Got qualified early. I was young when I couldn't even drink when I was driving fire trucks.
Right.
And
typically a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, typically, listen, Frank, honestly, it's, you take a kid who's getting his driver's license. I mean, I'm a little different. I grew up in construction, grew up around heavy equipment, so... Right. When I was 14, 15 years old, I was driving dump trucks. I was, running heavy equipment. I had a little bit more respect for bigger apparatus like we have here.
And again, I think that's rare at 18 years old to have that type of respect and knowledge that you brought to the fire company, which is good.
Yeah. And, there was a lot of times I got on the back of the truck, wanted to be on the back of the truck, wanted to learn as much as I could. But,
right.
It was nice if, being a volunteer company, as we still have the same problem today, during the day you have a shortfall of drivers. And,
right.
If there was no other senior drivers there, I could at least get the truck on the road and get the truck to a call.
Yeah, important, even like you just said, even today, trying to get the piece out onto the pad into the job isn't always so easy.
Yeah.
Now.
Yep.
So early on, your father had a construction business, correct?
Yep.
So that's where you learned.
That's where I learned how to drive heavy equipment. That's how I, started driving tractor trailers, dump trucks, and driving those compared to driving these things it's very similar.
Right. So when did you get your first position on the line?
I was 3 years into Pleasant Plains, and I got elected engineer. That was back when it was an elected position. It wasn't appointed by the chief.
Okay.
I got elected as engineer, and we'll talk about this later on because I know you and I talked before the show about culture change. But back then we had trainings Thursday nights, and Sunday mornings were always the quote unquote unspoken trainings where everybody's going to be at the firehouse. You don't have to be there, but
you better
really
show
should
up.
Be there.
Yeah, you should show up. Right.
So,
right.
I never missed a Sunday, never missed a Thursday. God, I can't tell you how many times I got into wars with my father about leaving work to go to a fire, or how many, dinners I ruined, with my poor mother. I was 18, 19 years old, fighting with my father about leaving to go to a fire during the day or whatever. But, I felt the need.
But unless you're, into this and part of the culture, it's hard for people on the outside to understand that dedication, that drive to not just to want to be there, but to have to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were a lieutenant, right?
So I started off as engineer, and once the way Pleasant Plains worked is once you got in the line, an engineer wasn't a line officer position, but it was an elected position, and once you got there, as long as you did your job and you were effective and you did a good job, you continued up the ladder all the way.
Okay.
And I went from engineer all the way to fire chief. I was a line officer in Pleasant Plains for 14 years.
Wow, long time.
Yeah.
That's good. And tell me what it was like to become fire chief at 30.
Oh my God, being fire chief at 30, that was something I really looked forward to.
Right.
It was, it came too fast. A really good guy, Tom Donner, in front of me, had to step aside because Tom moved. And I actually stepped in and did 1 year as assistant chief and then stepped right into chief.
Oh, wow.
So it was a real quick segue for me from captain to chief.
Right.
But man, I'll tell you, going back to being chief, that was a good time. It was great to be in charge.
What was one of the things you wanted to bring to 30 when you became chief?
It's something it's my belief. You don't have to be the guy that bangs your hand on a table, and you don't have to say, I'm the chief, we're doing it this way because I'm the fire chief.
Right.
I think we maybe had one suspension during 2 years or 3 years that I was fire chief, and it was for something stupid. I mean, it was for something just completely stupid, somebody not thinking.
Right.
But you know what? You bring the guys in and you talk to them as you'd want to be talked to. You don't say,
very important. Very important.
Especially in the volunteer culture.
Sure.
I mean, you can't rule with an iron fist in a volunteer culture. People can talk about it, they can talk the talk, but when it comes down to it, you got to put people in seats in this thing right behind us.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to rule with an iron fist, it's not going to work.
One of the things I liked about people who talk about you in your tenure as chief was just what you just said. And anybody who knows or follows the show, there's no script, okay? We briefly talk about things I want to cover, but there's no script. There's nothing in front of us to look at.
Nope.
One of the things that was said to me about you by firefighters who were under your command said that you were the guy to go to them and say, listen, in the future, let's do it this way.
Yep.
And that's important. I think that's extremely important, especially today. Just what you said, I agree with you 100%. There's a time to be where you put your fist down and say, we're doing it this way when it comes to life hazard. Right.
When it comes to tactics or when it comes to putting a fire out.
That's the time. But, it's much better to be able to grab somebody by the arm or the shoulder and say, listen, brother, we need to do it this way.
I mean, listen, one of my greatest experiences being chief, and it's not about running the fires. It's not about being a guy in charge. It's about teaching somebody. It's about showing them somebody the ropes.
Right.
We had, I was fire chief, and I'm going to throw out a chief's challenge real quick here. Bob Sennett, you need to do this show. All right? You need to come on.
I told him.
As many people may or may not know, we run with Silver, Pleasant Plains run with Silver in all calls.
Right.
So we get dispatched to a roof blown off of Nature Fair. And I'll never forget, the captain at the time was Lou Bader. And I show up, and Lou comes over to me. He's like, Chief, I'm so glad you're here. Take charge. I'll take interior. I'm like, no, get in the passenger seat. And he said to me, he looked at me, he goes, what do you mean? I said, you're in charge. You're running it. I said, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to make sure that everything's good. That,
right.
I said, but you need to learn. I've done it. I've run calls like this. I'm not saying this to sound arrogant, but
right.
If I'm running a call and my lieutenants and my captains are not, they're taking orders from me.
Right.
They're learning, but the first-hand knowledge trumps anything that they're going to learn from me.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
There's no greater thing that a fire chief can do that is to stand behind and watch his chiefs and say, and if somebody steps out of line, you go, I do this.
Right.
But let's go ahead and try what you're thinking.
Unfortunately, there are times when just the opposite happens. There'll be a chief on scene, and I hear these stories all the time, especially now doing the podcast. A lot more people are talking to me about their cultures and their places, and one of the frustrating things I hear is there'll be a chief on the scene from another town who already has command established, but then someone else is showing up going, hey, this is my town.
Right.
If you just take a second to work together,
we're all on the same team, brother.
You know what I mean? We're different.
All on the same team.
Yeah, different patch, same responsibility.
That's right.
So good.
The public doesn't care if a red truck, a yellow truck, a blue truck, or a green truck shows up, as long as when they call 911, a truck shows up.
Exactly. We all need to be on the same page.
Yeah.
I just saw on Facebook how Township did a joint drill or training with all their companies, and they brought Farmingdale in. And that's good to see.
Yeah.
When you start seeing that multi-discipline training.
Yep. Multi-agency is huge.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And again, I don't think it happens enough.
Yeah.
But
I don't think it does either, but I think it could happen a lot more. And one of the things that I know you and I are going to talk about this later on in the show, but one of the things that we're doing as fire coordinators is we're trying to get more agencies, out-of-county agencies involved in trying to do a couple training sessions a year, whether it be tanker task force training, whether it be LDH training,
right.
Or just, a large-scale operation. Training's huge.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something you're big on, too. So we talked about you being an officer, moving up to position of chief. What happened after that? You became a fire coordinator, huh?
Yeah. Well, after that, I moved to Jackson. After I got done being chief, about a year after that, I moved out here and tried taking a breath to catch my breath. And as soon as a few of the guys from this house in Whitesville found out that I had moved out here, I'd gotten a phone call from Dave Johnson, who at the time I think was assistant chief, and his dad was a fire commissioner, and they're good friends of mine and my family's. And he's like, "Oh, why don't you come? We could use the help. We could use drivers during the day. And I said, no, and the itch just never stopped. I mean,
once it's in your bloodline, it's in there.
You got to scratch it.
So what year did you come here?
I came here 2000. I came here as a driver in 2008.
Okay.
And I came here as a full-time member at the end of 2008.
Tell me about the dynamics of this house.
Oh, love this house. Coming to this house is like coming to Fire Department Shangri-La. I mean, there is no fighting. There is no arguing. It's seamless. Everybody knows their job. And Frank, it's bizarre because this is a combination house, work career during the day, volunteer at night. And I'm going to tell you, seamless. Volunteers augment the career staff during the day. Career staff trains with us at night, comes in on their off time as volunteers, not getting paid, not anything, to work with the volunteers, so everybody's on the same page.
That's great.
Bro, it works awesome.
As you know, I'm on accommodation department myself, and it's very challenging. It's very challenging at times to make sure everyone's together.
Yeah.
It's true. So if what you're telling me you're doing here is working, it's good. It should be a model to a lot of different places around.
Yeah, no, it's and it's Jackson. Jackson's been career volunteer for a long time now, and it's worked. It's worked really well for Jackson Township.
That's good. And you guys train together?
Yeah. Yep. All 4 fire departments in Jackson train together. All 4 career staffs in Jackson train together.
That's important.
During the daytime, they'll have, a couple times a month they'll train here. All the career departments will bring their career engines here. Or, we have one department in Jackson runs a career tower and a career engine.
Awesome.
So, everybody will get in one location. They'll train on, on forcible entry, on, everything.
That's good. I mean, that intercooperation is so important.
Yeah. No, it's huge. It's really huge.
And it's nice here. It's nice and clean. It's a nice house. Obviously, it's kept up well, and you can see that's evident here that guys care to take pride in.
Yeah, I mean, we train Monday nights here. If anybody wants to join, we're accepting memberships. We throw that little plug out there. If you live in Jackson, come on down Monday nights. No, but I mean, Monday nights, everybody's here. Everybody's working, cleaning trucks, running trucks up, checking chainsaws, washing trucks, waxing them.
Awesome.
There's a lot of pride in this firehouse.
That's good. Every firehouse should have that pride, and I'm glad to see that's what's happening here. That's awesome. Yeah,
I mean, I've been to a lot of departments, as you know, that are career volunteer, and sometimes you get the guys, screw that, I'm not washing that truck. The career guys can do it tomorrow, or you know what, the volunteers are coming here tonight.
Right.
We're not doing that. Let them do it tonight. And there's none of that.
No, that's good.
Everybody's one big happy family here.
That's awesome. Obviously, whatever is happening, it's the right thing because it's working. It's working.
No, our commissioners here in District 2 are really good with us. Our chiefs are good. Our career staff's fantastic. And it's just. It really should. It should be a model.
So how did it become that 2 districts merged, correct? Tell me about that.
So, it was a funny story. So you asked me a little bit about being fire coordinator. We'll get to that. But I was a fire commissioner here, and we had bounced around the idea of consolidation because, as you know from looking around the state and hearing around the state, there's a lot of duplication in the fire service, a ton of it.
Sure.
Whether you are Hamilton Township, whether you are Jackson Township, whether you are Toms River Township, there's no reason anymore to have multiple fire districts. 40, 50 years ago, there was an absolute reason because there were certain areas of towns that couldn't see past the boundary line. There was certain parts of towns that said, well, I'm not paying for this town's
Right.
And we are so beyond the days of, well, you're not coming into my area, or, with the state recommending and mandating mutual aid policies and run assignments, run agreements and stuff like that. There's
shared services is big.
Yeah. And I mean, right now, the only reason is that people are hanging on to this multiple district discipline is ego. I hate to say it, Frank, but it's ego. We merged, and I'm proud to say that I was one of the guys who fought to get the districts consolidated here in Jackson Township because I really saw it and I really believed that we were going to save the taxpayers money. We were going to give them the same service, if not a better service, and we were going to save them money. And that's something that a lot of people they forget to realize, that we're here to serve the taxpayers. And we did it. We did it. Our first year we did it. And we saved the taxpayers over $100,000 the first year that we did it because we weren't paying for 2 separate attorneys. We weren't paying for 2 separate accountants. We weren't paying for 2 separate sets of insurance. We now had 2 full stations under one umbrella that were sharing one service.
How was the transition with the membership?
Well, I'm going to tell you the transition was seamless because the commissioners, at least out here, their responsibility, and again, I'm not speaking for the fire commissioners now, I'm speaking for when I was a fire commissioner, our job was to administer the budget. If the chief came in and said he wanted a helicopter, yeah, sorry, chief, you're not getting that.
Right.
But if the chief came in and said, hey, I need 3 helmets, all right, chief, you're getting that.
Yeah, right.
We're not dictating policy and procedure. That's the chief's jobs. The chief runs the firehouse. Our job as fire commissioners is to get them money.
A resource.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's good. And okay, so you said it was a pretty easy transition, right?
It was, yeah, it really was.
Do you credit that to the training beforehand, each company training together, or how do you contribute that?
You know, I think I attribute it honestly to just the level of working together day in, day out, as you know, running calls together,
Right.
knowing the commissioners together, having the same chiefs together. I think everybody working together made that transition seamless.
Awesome. That's good. So tell me about Car 14. What's that all about?
So when I came here to Jackson, Fred Fritz was the fire coordinator, was the deputy fire coordinator for Zone 4, which is Plumstead, Manchester, and Manchester, and Jackson. And
Squared away
Fred,
guy.
yeah. And Fred said to me, he said, "I'm done." I went, "Oh, who's going to take your place?" And he goes, "I already talked to all the Jackson chiefs and the Zone 4 chiefs." He said, "And I'm pretty sure that you're going to be nominated." And I went, "Okay." I said, "I'm honored."
There's one of those hats.
Yeah, I said, "I'm honored, but what exactly?" And he goes, it's not that bad. You know, Jackson and New Egypt and Manchester are pretty squared away. You know, everybody kind of knows what they're doing, and you know, it really shouldn't be too bad." And I'll never forget the first county fire chiefs meeting we have to go and report our calls to. And
Right.
Jay Sonnenfeld was at like 16 calls. Dennis Barkalow was at 12 calls. Bruce Seafried was at like 20 calls, and I think I had 49. You know, so I was like, yeah, thanks, Fred. You know,
Yeah. It shouldn't be too bad.
But, you know, it was different to be able to come into this for me. It was exciting and different all at the same time.
Right.
Because you go from being chief to knowing what you're supposed to do and knowing how to do it, and then you have to take a step back and say to the chief, "Hey, what do you want me to help you with?"
How difficult is it to go from running the scene, being in charge, wearing a white helmet, now you're at the same fire scene with another white helmet, but now you have a different role altogether, correct?
You have a completely different role.
Right.
And it's difficult, but it's easy because honestly, in my zone, our guys are top notch.
Awesome.
I mean, our guys are, the zone pretty much runs itself. You know, I show up, there's been times I've showed up that a chief said to me, "Hey, I need a fireground officer," or "Hey, be interior," or "Hey, you know, can you take water supply?" Or, you know, and I'm more of a resource for that chief.
Right.
You know, and we're very fortunate in the fact that we have very good chiefs in our zone.
And that all goes back to having a good working relationship with the people you know and trusting the
Keeping
people
them
you work
informed.
with. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for the viewers that are watching, maybe out of county or out of state, explain to the viewers what the fire coordinator's job is.
So what a fire coordinator is supposed to do, we are actually appointed by the State Fire Marshal's Office and the State Fire Coordinator, and we are assigned to Ocean County as part of the Ocean County Sheriff's Department through the Emergency Management Branch. And we are actually tasked to go to any third alarm or better fire anywhere in the county or anywhere in the state, and just assist with resource allocation.
Okay, so the chief says to you, "Hey, we're at this job. I'm on my third alarm. I need my station covered. I need that station covered." That's what you do.
Yeah, and we come in and we get them, and we try to strategically pull them from different parts of the area, so we're not stripping firehouses. We're not, we're trying to keep from having to have cover upon cover upon cover upon cover.
Right, and I think that's one of those things. If there's a house that doesn't get called, sometimes they'll have a tendency to maybe take it personal, not realizing that there's a bigger picture.
Yeah.
We can't completely strip the resources.
Well, and we've had this, time and time again where, there's a certain house that can get one truck on the road during the day. Well, guess what? If you call them for a cover, they're done. They can't cover their own calls if they have a call. And regardless of what people think, calls do happen when you're on cover assignments.
Of course they do, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's good to know your district or your area well, to know that particular house you're talking about only can get one truck out.
Yeah.
It's important not to strip that town.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, Zone 4's got some really interesting stuff in it. I mean, we've got we've got Joint Base, the Naval Base, and we touch Fort Dix and McGuire. So, at any given time, we could be dealing with, a plane crash. We could be dealing with a wildfire on the base. We could be, we got to be careful about what we do out here.
The good thing about that is they have a really squared away fire department.
Oh yeah, they do.
Those guys are awesome.
They do. They do. We use them a lot.
Yeah,
we use them a lot in our zone.
That's good. So, talking about the drink of water, that's good. I'm going to do that too.
Yeah.
Talk to me about. We're talking about all this good stuff, right?
Yep.
Which is great. I love the good stuff.
Yep.
Give me your worst experience so far in the fire service.
Man, there's been a lot of them, bud.
What stands out?
Well, two particular stand out to the top of my head. One, obviously, 9/11.
Right.
When I was at Pleasant Plains, we had had one of our guys who was a career guy in Engine 15, Rocky Ramundi, who, when the planes hit the towers, we all went to the firehouse. Just
a lot of people did that, right? Felt like home.
Yeah, and about 2 hours after the planes hit the towers, Rocky's wife had called the firehouse, actually looking to see if any of us had heard from Rocky, and nobody had heard from him. And about maybe 4 or 5 hours later, Rocky finally called the firehouse, and
how great was that?
We didn't know at the time. We had no idea it was self-service that had all gone downhill, and he called the firehouse, and he's like, we need help, and
how nice was it to hear his voice?
Oh, you have no idea. And we came to find out later on that night that he had gotten off shift at 8 o'clock that morning. His swing was supposed to come in at 9 o'clock to take his normal shift, but his swing came in at 8 o'clock, so Rocky could get off early to go surfing. And Rocky was on the Brooklyn Bridge when the planes hit the tower, and his swing and his entire engine got killed.
Ugh.
And that was, we ended up getting up there, had a hell of a time getting up there. Rocky's captain had asked us to come. We brought one of our engines up there because obviously the whole entire, the whole city was at Church and Vesey. I'll never forget, we had a screaming match with the state police, wouldn't let us through the tunnel. We got to the other side of the tunnel, and New York State Police was there waiting for us, and we had a police escort all the way up to Henry Street.
That's great.
And the other thing that really sticks out in my mind was Sandy. Sandy was brutal on us.
Oh yeah.
On all of us, on you, on every fire department in Ocean County. Zone 4, we were the high ground. We didn't have the problems that the beach had, the problems that your zone had.
Yeah.
And we were here. And the greatest part about this firehouse, I told you before about everybody getting along in family. Every guy, every family, their kids, their dogs, everybody was here. So
That's
nobody
great.
had to worry about, is a tree going through my house, and is my wife and kids at the house alone. All the families were here. So we had all 4 trucks staffed, plus both our chief's cars staffed. And we were running wire down calls, we were running tree down calls. And
so many of them.
Yeah, and I'm listening, I hear on the coordinator's channel, I hear Brian Gabriel calling in a structure fire at Johnson's Mall in Beechwood.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I knew Dennis was tied up because he had flooding down in Forked River. Bruce was tied up in Point. Jay and Brian were tied up down at Johnson's. And I get a phone, or I hear on the radio, any available fire coordinator, contact communications immediately. So I call county, and they said, you got to call Brick OEM right away. So I called Joe at Brick OEM, and he said to me, he says, Chris, he said, I need you to get whatever you can get for me to Bricktown to get to the barrier island. He said, we got 29 houses on fire in Camp Osborne.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was in the chief's car with Scott Roush, who's our chief at the time, and we had our ladder. And I brought one truck from every firehouse in our zone. And we got to the base of the Maniloking Bridge, and we had water up over the front bumper of the engine. And the cop just looked and he goes, where are you going? And I said, we're going to try and get there. And with that, a house floated over the Maniloking Bridge. Yeah. And Scott and I looked and said, we're just not going to make it. And we got back to Pioneer Hose's firehouse, and I came walking in the firehouse with 80 guys, on all the trucks from my zone. And I'll never forget, I looked at Chief Wally Eaton's face, who was the chief of Pioneer Hose at the time. And Wally looked at me and he goes, Chris, he goes, I don't know what to do. And I said to him, I said, Chief, I said, we can't get there. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
And that was Frank. Being able to sit there and look a fire chief in the eye and say that there's nothing you can do is probably the most gut-wrenching thing you could ever do in your life.
Absolutely, because we don't know what that is.
We figure it out.
We figure it out. No matter what, we figure it out. And to sit helplessly and not be able to do anything is terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
And then we got back here. The tones dropped for us to go around 10. And the brick guys, had lost a bunch of their houses, and we were covering calls for them. And we got back here, I guess, around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and our chef, we actually have a full-blown chef here.
Wow.
So
an actual full-blown chef.
Full-blown chef here. His name's Mark Esposito, and I'm going to tell you, the guy should be in the catering business.
Where is he now? He should be here.
I'll get tomorrow night. Come, I guarantee you'll leave with a full belly and you'll be happy. We roll in 2:30 in the morning. We're all, we've been going all day. We're dragging ass. And Mark's feeding us, and my cell phone rings, and I look, and it's Steve Henry from Tom's.
Oh, yeah.
And he said to me, he says, where are you? And Steve and I were fire chiefs. Steve and I have got a huge history together. If there's ever a guy that I want in battle with me, it's Steve, because he's calm, he's cool.
And he's no nonsense.
Yeah. And Steve says, where are you? I said, I literally just walked into my firehouse. And he said to me, he goes, I need you and 5 or 6 5-tons to Fisher and 37, code 3. And he hung up on me. And I was like, I've never heard Steve Henry say code 3 on a radio, on anything else. So I come to find out, I get all of our 5-tons. We get heading over there. I go over there in my own truck, and I get there, Fisher and 37's under about a foot of water. I've been in Tom's over 20 years. I've never seen Fisher and 37 underwater. And Steve said to me, he goes, I got 3 of my cops and 4 of Lavallette's cops trapped in a building in Lavalette. He said, I got to go get them. And we started across with a couple of the 5-tons. A couple of the 5-tons started floating in the water. Never seen that happen before.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And we pulled the pin and had to wait till 5 o'clock in the morning till state police team showed up with boats. And they launched the boats in the middle of Route 37. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Never
the
seen
whole day
anything
was like craziness.
And then the next 7 days were like Groundhog Day. I mean,
yeah.
Over on the island, searching houses with the USAR team, covering firehouses, covering resources, and then honestly, it didn't hit me till we were about 4 days in, and we finally got the beach under control. We had, I think it was the Ohio Urban Search and Rescue team and a New Jersey team, and Brian Gabriel, who I was working with on the island, asked me to go to Silverton to meet with Bob Sinnott. Again, Bob throwing it out, you need to come on the show.
I told him.
So I went to Silverton, and I walk into the firehouse, and Gus Baxis was there, and in their radio room, they've got a big white dry erase board.
Oh, yeah.
And there's 25 names on the dry erase board. And I said to Gus, I said, is that all the guys you got active right now? And he looked at me and just turns around and he goes, no, that's all the guys that lost their houses.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, I talk about getting punched in the stomach. I mean, these are guys I played softball with, guys I had, drank beer with, guys I fought fire with,
Right.
you know, guys I spent my whole life growing up with. Watched them lose everything.
Yeah.
You know.
It's funny you mentioned Silverton. During Sandy, a good buddy of mine, Chris Hansen.
Oh yeah.
I love that kid.
Yep.
I call him Sal, by the way.
Boo-boo.
So when you see him, call him Sal.
Yeah.
He calls me up. He goes, "Man, where you at?" And at the time, I was in Beechwood. I'm like, "I'm Beechwood. You know, trying to deal with the stuff we had going on there. I mean, it was a disaster there too."
Yep.
And he goes, "Hey, if you can, we're gonna start going house to house and searching for survivors." I'm like, "I'll be there." You know, I got up to Silverton. I could not believe the amount of destruction on Kettle Creek.
Oh yeah.
Just, your eyes can't prepare you for that type of thing. You see it on the news and in a book, but to see it live and for me it was crazy going house to house. And I remember seeing boats in front yards and utter destruction, thinking how are we going to recover from this? And so the whole Silverton Strong thing was so cool.
Let me tell you,
how awesome was that?
I started spending a lot more time in Silverton with those guys, just because of the fact that they were my family.
I love that department. I really do.
They were
They're
my
such
family.
good people.
And I knew so many of the guys there that lost everything.
Right.
And seeing the guys showing up, and unsolicited, not the fire coordinators called them. Let me say that on tape. We never called them.
Right.
But unsolicited guys showing up from FDNY, from Garfield Fire Department, from Wallington, from Jersey City.
Right.
Prince George's County, Maryland sent an engine up for a weekend to cover for them. I can't remember. It was a big blue and white rescue truck driving around with cases of water, big heavy, tandem axle heavy rescue.
Oh, wow.
Driving around with cases of water, giving it to people, helping people clean their houses out. I mean, that you want to talk about a feel-good story? Man, they should have had a videotape on that.
Absolutely. It's funny, Gonzo, he said the same thing. He goes, "Sandy, you saw everyone come out to help out, which is awesome."
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, and that's the cool thing about being a coordinator, able to facilitate some of that stuff right now in the fire service, right?
Yeah.
So, you were also fire commissioner.
I was a fire commissioner.
Tell me about that.
That, as I alluded to before, the guys asked me here if I would run for fire commissioner, and I was really humbled and honored that they asked me. I'd only had a few years here, but they weren't just asking me because I was a warm pulse. They asked me because I think they believed in me, and myself and a couple of the other guys were the ones who kind of spearheaded the whole trying to consolidate. And, we tried getting all 4 fire districts together, and because of egos and because of politics and because of, other, I'm going to say it, other shit, people would not let their egos get out of the way.
Right.
And when we sat down with the first joint board meeting, which was all 4 fire districts, I said, if there's anybody who believes that this can happen, you have to check your egos at the door. Because you know what? This fire service, this town, is bigger than the 20 of us sitting in this room. And we can do a lot more for the people and for the taxpayers. And there was, Frank, we did probably almost 2 years worth of meetings. Trying to get all 4 fire districts together. I mean, we had meetings with the state, with the Division of Fire Safety. We had Division of Community Affairs, a gentleman by the name of Don Huber, who was amazing, to work with and help us, giving us pointers, giving us directions, and finally at the last hour when we thought everything was coming together, it just, 2 of the 4 fire districts pulled out. And the last 2 fire districts was our district, which was District 1.
Right.
And the other district, which was District 2, Cassville's district. And our commissioners and Cassville's commissioners still believed in the consolidation theory. And we said, you know what, if the rest of the town doesn't want to do it, we'll do it ourselves. And we did it.
And it's working.
It's working phenomenally.
That's good. And are you still a commissioner?
No, I actually, when time came and we had to consolidate into one board, I volunteered to step away. Just, I don't need I don't need a hat. I don't need a badge to say I'm commissioner to know that the right thing's being done.
Right. And things are still moving smoothly.
Yeah.
Are you happy with the way things went?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So, outside of being fire commissioner, you also do stuff with the state forest fire. Tell me about that.
Well,
these hats we're hitting on.
I got Chamberlain Branch Fire. I think it was back in, might have been in 2000, 2001, in the back of Double Trouble State Park. Never forget Mike Davenport, God rest his soul. They were looking for a bulldozer operator, and Scott Nauer wasn't a district warden at the time. He was working Lakewood Fire Tower. And Mike Davenport called Scott. He said, if they're looking for a dozer operator, call Flounder. I know he can run a dozer. So I went down and I ran a bulldozer for the Forest Fire Service for 2 days. And after that, I got sucked into being an operator for him. And I say sucked. It's a great job. I mean, it's completely different than structural firefighting.
Totally different animal.
Totally different.
Yeah.
We want to talk about guys that are really squared away and know what they're doing. When it comes to forest fire, all it takes is one wind the wrong way, and things get real bad real quick.
Oh yeah.
I have a lot of respect for those guys.
Years ago, I was probably 19, caught in head fire, and being from up north, coming here, and then next thing you know, I'm at head fire. I'm like, where the hell am I? It was like hell on earth.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the sound.
Yep.
Certainly never going to forget the heat. But, being surrounded by people who were experienced, like the Forest Fire Service, on knowing what to do, totally different dynamic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was, I think you might be talking about the same fire, the Jake's Branch Fire, off Double Trouble Road in the back of Beechwood in Berkeley.
Yep, that's the one.
And Jim Dusha.
Another good guy.
Yep, Jim Dusha called me on the radio, and he said, Flounder, he said, I need you to get on the bulldozer and put a line down the old Double Trouble Road. We're going to fire the old Double Trouble Road and keep it running on these houses. So Jimmy was in the helicopter. I was on the bulldozer, and at the time on the bulldozer, when you got the bulldozer wide open, you can't hear. I mean, at the time we didn't have headsets.
Right.
So I heard something, and I idled the dozer down, and I hear Jimmy screaming on the radio, get out of there, get out of there, get out of there, wind shift. And I had B-19 and B-9 behind me, and they're hitting their sirens going, back out, back out. And as we were backing out, the head fire's coming right down on top of us, and I couldn't see at the time, and went right through an above-ground pool with a bulldozer.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I couldn't see. I mean, you've been in it. You've been.
I know. Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
Total disorientation.
Yeah, and luckily the pool, me breaking the pool, saved about 4 houses. Because it wet all the ground around the houses, and we got out. We ended up getting it, but that was one of the hairiest moments I've had with forest fire.
Yeah, that's a lot of people can't do it.
No,
it takes a special breed to do that job.
You got to be extremely confident in yourself, and you got to be a little bit crazy.
So obviously, with all these different hats,
yep,
family certainly plays a role in all this, right?
Family's huge. Family's huge. Like I said, I mean, I can't tell you how many dinners I ruined on my mother's, from fighting with my father about leaving to go to a fire, leaving to go to this or leaving to go to that. And, family, I mean, Charlene keeps it together for me. The kids keep it together for me, because at any moment, I mean, right now the tones could drop and me and you could be getting on that truck and going out the door.
Oh, awesome. I gotta find gear that fits me.
And yeah, trust me, we'll get something that'll fit you. But it's generations are important too.
Speaking of generations,
yeah,
your boy,
my little guy joined. He's a
awesome.
Junior here. He's 16. He is the luckiest frigging kid you could ever imagine, because he joined here, came to a bunch of drills with me, and it was quiet, really quiet. And the very first call he got was a structure fire, and it was a worker.
Nice.
And we were in the ladder. I was in the ladder. I was wearing both hats as a fire coordinator and a firefighter. And he was with me, and he said, Dad, what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, You do what the officer on the truck tells you to do. You stay right with him, and do exactly. And he fed hose from the, off the truck. Marty Fleming was driving a ladder. He stayed right on Marty's side, got tools off the truck, gave the guys the stuff.
Awesome.
And he wants to do it full time for a living.
Let me ask you, what was it like seeing your son on the fire ground with you for the very first time?
I think I was more excited than he was.
Yeah.
I was. And
that's awesome.
I got to tell you, man, it was a great feeling.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yep. Charlene's son wants to be a firefighter now, so I'm looking at 2 of them.
Wow.
I'm trying to get him involved in a junior program.
Awesome.
To, start cutting his teeth on it.
Yeah.
Because when you get in somewhere as young like I did, I mean, I joined Pleasant Plains when I was 18 years old.
Yeah, I came in at 15, and man, I never looked back.
Yeah, I mean, you got to cut your teeth when you're young.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an old man now, but when I first started at 15,
both of us are, bro. Both of us are. I'm going on 27 years in the fire service now.
Hey, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And it's so much fun still.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely.
I figured I'll stop when I'm dead.
Yeah.
That's when
Yep.
I guess I'll eventually
Or when we get to that age of 70, when the state tells us we can't drive fire trucks or can't get on fire trucks or anything else.
Someone
anymore.
Push me around. That's all. Put me in a wheelchair and push me around. So your son coming on as a junior, that's got to be awesome. Great experience.
It really is. He's into it. And what makes me happy is, the reason I got involved in the fire service was, it's the thrill, it's the adrenaline, but it's also the fact that you're getting to help somebody.
Absolutely.
It's getting to be the fact that you're helping somebody, whether it's a complete stranger or it's somebody you know.
Right.
When they're having the worst friggin' day of their lives, you're there to pick up the pieces for them.
And that's why it's so important that you have to be on your very best day on that person's worst day.
You got to be 100% every time you step foot on that rig.
Absolutely,
Yep.
Which brings me to my next question, and that is, tell me about the culture change from when you started till now. Because we could talk about this till 4 in the morning.
Yeah, we could, and I got to be on a plane early in the morning. Culture change, man. Boy, is it's bad. When I first joined Pleasant Plains, you came to the firehouse every waking moment because it was your second home.
Absolutely.
And you were taking care of the trucks, you were taking care of your gear, you were cleaning the firehouse, not because you were asked to, not that you were expected to, but because you felt an obligation to. And today, in today's society, it's not what can I do for the firehouse, it's what can the firehouse do for me. And that's the wrong mentality right now, because you got people who are depending, you just said it, people that are depending on you in their worst possible moments.
Yep.
And getting on a big red ding ding and going to a fire call, that's one thing. But you know what? There's a lot involved to keeping this place so that you can get on that big red fire truck. And
absolutely.
And a lot of guys don't understand that. I mean, when a taxpayer, I say taxpayer, when a taxpayer or your customer, Chief Bronzini brought it up the best. It was, Mrs. Smith. What if Mrs. Smith walks in the firehouse and sees the firehouse a wreck? Is she going to have any trust in you? Is she going to have any trust in the fire department? No, I mean,
of course not.
Your customer walks into the firehouse, they should see the trucks are spick and span, the gear's put away nice and neat.
Right.
The firehouse looks clean. And just as a segue, what if, God forbid, you got to open a shelter at your firehouse? If you get, a storm or a gas leak or something like that, you got to bring, 50 or 100 people into your firehouse. You're going to bring them into a shit house? No.
And that's why it's important for us to police ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when pride in your house is so important. I mean, that's the whole premise of the show.
Yep.
To kind of restore some of that tradition we have and that culture. And, what advice would you give? Because you've been on a long time. What advice would you give your son coming in right now as a junior? What are you telling him?
Grind. Stay here, learn, be with the guys, spend as much time as you can here.
Yeah.
Spending time here and being productive, that's how you're going to learn things, and that's how you're going to be successful. That's how I became successful.
Right.
Sitting here in the day room watching TV on your smartphone, playing video games, that's not being productive. That's not being, come out here, tie knots, come out here, pull the ladders, throw a ladder on the side of the building. You know, come out here, you know, if you're with the day guys or if you're on a drill night or whatever, you know, get one of the senior guys. The senior guys love to drive. They love to go out and drive the trucks. They love to pump. They love to, you know, they're past their days of pulling hose. And,
Right.
You know, but get one of them and say, hey, can we go out and, you know, flow the deck gun? Can we go out and hit a hydrant? Can we go out? Get out and train. Get out and work. Get out. And that's how you get respect.
Yeah, I remember coming up, and we came up around the same time, and that was it. We had to do something. You had to be part of something.
Yeah, it was an unwritten rule. I mean, God, I mean, you know, you asked me, you know, when we were talking about doing a show about, you know, who one of my mentors was, and it was John Hafner. It was Cubby. I mean, you know, Cubby was, I think I was his lieutenant when he was chief, but he was, you know, kind of took me under my wings when I was, you know, when I was new in Pleasant Plains. And, you know, it was kind of the unwritten rule, like I was talking about before. Sundays, you showed up at the firehouse, not because I told you needed to be there, but you were expected to be there.
Right.
You know, and it wasn't going to be, you know, if you didn't show up, hey, why weren't you there? But it was, you know, you would walk into the firehouse and you would just get that look like, you know, where the fuck were you on Sunday?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but if people aren't doing that now, shame on us.
Yeah, well,
shame on us.
But you know what? We have, man, I'm going to go here, and I don't know if I can go there or not, so I'll give you the credit to edit. But you know what? We're past the days of participation trophies.
Absolutely.
Everybody that shows up has got to make a difference.
I'm not going to stop you there.
You know, everybody that
agree.
Shows up has got to make a difference. You can't show up, you know, and just stand around with your hands in your pockets. Dig in. You know, everybody's got a job to do, and you know what? The job gets done easier if everybody pitches in.
And I strongly believe that everyone has a role. So if you're not, listen, I know firefighters, great firefighters, I trust my life with, but you won't catch them on a tower ladder.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know your limitations, but those are the guys giving 110% everywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're going to get someone else to go on a tower ladder. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100%. You have to at least be part of it.
Yeah.
If you're not, there's the door.
Yeah, and the guys who show up when the calls are going off, you know, but they're the guys who don't show up at drills. They're the guys that, you know, don't show up. I mean, listen, I got 27 years in. I'm one of the older dogs. You know, I'm not one of the guys who's here every Monday night. I mean, as you were saying about my younger guy, football. You know, I got 2 kids playing football. I got a fiance. I got, you know, I got a lot of obligations, but you know what? I'm here as much as I can be here.
Right.
You know, and I'm here on Monday nights. I'm here for calls. I'm here for, you know, whatever I can be here for. And
The fact that you're on this show right now proves your
and
loyalty.
I mean, there's a lot of younger guys who 2:00 in the morning, they're not working tomorrow.
They're
CO
rolling
alarm
over.
goes off.
Yeah, they're rolling over.
I had, when I first came here, one of our younger guys, we'd had a CO alarm at 2:00 in the morning. And I had almost 20 years here when I came here. And I didn't get up for a CO alarm. I didn't. And 7:00 in the morning, we had a possible structure fire, and I showed up, and this younger kid looks at me and he goes, "Where were you at 2:00 in the morning for the CO alarm?" And before I could say a word, the chief looked at him and he goes, "He's got a white hat and a helmet, or a white helmet and a coat hanging up on his wall at home. He's earned the right to sleep through a CO alarm."
Right. And that all goes back to the culture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And, you know, we talked a lot about respect. You know, listen.
I'm gonna stop you right there, because you said you gave that example, and immediately what came to my mind was 20 years ago. Would you ever say that to?
Oh, never.
Would you ever say that to a senior member?
Never.
It wouldn't even cross your mind.
Never. Never would I say that.
That's the culture change.
You know, and I look at it now, and you know, the guy who predominantly drives this truck right here that we're sitting behind is Marty Fleming.
Okay.
And Marty's got 40 some odd years in the fire service, and this truck's got Marty's name on the driver's seat.
Awesome.
And if Marty shows up here, whether it's me in the driver's seat, Bobby Reddington, who's our second seniorist driver, you know, whoever,
right,
we get out of the seat for Marty. Why?
Culture.
Respect.
It's all about the culture.
It's
right?
all about respect.
Yep.
And you know what? I got 27 years, 28 years in the fire service. Bobby's got 35 years in the fire service.
Right.
We're senior as Marty, but it's respect.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what the fire service today is lacking. You know, and it's not lacking it wholesale. It's lacking it half sale.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think there could be a little bit more heavy-handedness to some of the younger culture to teach them. The more and more you put the phone on your gear locker and leave it there, instead of Snapchat a picture of you and your guys, you know, on the back of an engine. Oh, wow, great. You can do that when you get back to the firehouse.
Yeah.
Until then, pack hose, get the tools cleaned up, get the truck ready to get back to service.
And it's a tough balance because they're part of you. You see that and you're like, okay, well, the person really loves what they're doing. They want to be part of it. They want to show the world they're part of it. But at the same time, that's not the time.
No.
That's the time when you should be mentally preparing yourself for what you're going to have to do.
Yep.
What's my job? What's my seat assignment? What's expected of me when I get off the rig? But you know,
Yeah.
most of these people, and no offense to anybody, but a lot of the newer kids, their heads up their ass.
Yeah.
You know, when they should
100%.
be focused on what needs to happen. And just recently, I was on a job, not a serious job, but a job nonetheless. And new firefighter gets off the rig, and he's been through fire school. He's got no tools in his hand, nothing. So I said, "Hey, bud, where's your tools?" You know, he's just looking at me. I said, "Grab a set of irons." You know, grab a set of irons. Go grab the can or a hook, something. You can't walk into this fire, you know, in the fireground empty-handed.
Yeah.
You know.
But
that's our responsibility, man.
It's our responsibility, but there's a lot more things, and you and I could go on hours and hours and hours for this. But I mean, like, one of the things that pisses me off to no end is you hear a truck signing on with one guy, with a driver only. We were rolling to a pin job, and the truck signs on with a driver. What are you going to do on an extrication with a driver?
Yeah, and you
nothing.
Technically, you're supposed to stand near your piece.
Yeah. So, I mean, just people have got to get past the glory boy mentality, and they've got to do their job. I mean, we as the fire service and as leaders and trainers, and we've taught the right pieces to be put in play.
Right.
It's a matter of using your brain and using the instruction that we've given you.
Yeah.
Don't do stupid shit like rolling a truck with one guy. Don't come off the truck with no tools. Don't come off the truck without a nozzle. Don't.
Yeah.
You know. I mean.
Or coming off the truck with a face mask on.
Yeah,
you can't see
without your
anything.
air pack on or anything else.
Right.
I mean, it's insane.
Well, listen, it was fun talking to you.
Oh, dude, I love doing this.
You know,
this was great.
It was great to have you in his show, and your show was sponsored. How about that?
All right.
So Gonzo's was sponsored. Yours is now sponsored. So Sign Up Signs in Beechwood, New Jersey. Larry, the sign guy. Larry is a phenomenal guy.
Okay.
Aces. You know.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks for sponsoring me.
Oh, yeah, man. I can call Larry 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Hey, I'm in a pinch. And he'll wipe his eyes and go, where you need me? You know, he's just one of those guys. And you call the store and you get Becky because, you know, Larry was usually in the back. Becky picks up the phone.
Right.
What do you need? Where is he? I'll go get him. But good guy. So if you need your vehicle wrapped, lettered, he's the guy.
Okay.
Larry, the sign guy. Again, thanks for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, brother.
It was awesome.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for bringing me to this cool firehouse.
Thanks for coming.
Rosenbauer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosenbauer.
Yeah. Chris Hansen told me I have to say that at least 3 times. All right, here it is. So episode 5 here at PintheQ podcast. Make sure you check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and if you haven't subscribed already,
YouTube.
You got to subscribe to YouTube so you can see what's going on here.
Yep. Come see me. Watch me multiple times. Get Frank's hit list up and get your sticker for your helmet.
That's right. And Sinot, here it is. You're getting called out by the chief. So
Bob, let's go.
You're up. Take care.